Hello folks, this is Steve A. For You. It's still 100 degrees out there. Fahrenheit. I went to Jersey Mike's tonight. This is off the topic. And I got a sub, just like I would get one in Philadelphia 60 years ago. Maybe they'll get better at making them more like the old days. Who knows? Item number 3. Ham and provolone. Tomatoes, lettuce, onions, pickles, a little bit of brown mustard, rye bread. $10, just under $10. Next time I'll go to Chick-fil-A. Okay. I'm going to recreate something that I did a few minutes ago and I stopped because I wanted to show you what's going on. Now remember, I have no stake in this. Reuters. I have been looking at AP News front page. Reuters is another news syndicate. Reuters breaking international news and views. We all know the latest stuff about Iran, Israel. I'm scrolling down. And I saw this one here with the CDC, Centers for Disease Control. And I just happened to read what the headline on it is. Exclusive. U.S. CDC vaccine presentation cites study that does not exist, author says. And it was put online 35, this article was put online 35 minutes ago. Now let me just prep you. Lawyers get in trouble using AI to write briefs with non-existent citations. Yes, lawyers are facing consequences for using AI to write briefs, which you submit to the court, that include non-existent citations or hallucinated cases. For example, New York federal judge sanctions lawyers who submitted a brief using ChatGPT with fake citations. The lawyers were fined $5,000 each in order to notify each judge falsely identified as the author of the bogus case rulings about the sanction. Lawyers for Morgan & Morgan sanctioned for citing. All right, now that's lawyers being lazy or whatever, overly clever, going into court, submitting a brief that's bullshit. Of course, they don't know because they're assholes. They didn't actually do any research. Too much trouble. I got so much stuff, I'm busy. I'm making that up, right? I'm hallucinating how it happens. Now let's get back to the article here. This is an exclusive article written by Michael Ehrman. I have no idea who he is. Exclusive, U.S. Centers for Disease Control vaccine presentation. That sounds like a paper written by somebody who works at the CDC. That's my interpretation. Cites study that does not exist, author says. Not the author of the presentation. Author of the cited article. Updated 1 minute ago. June 24th. That's today. Reuters. A review on the use of preservative, and the name of the preservative is thimerosal. Now all you do is you right-click on it and you can get the formula. It's an ethyl mercury containing compound. And there's the Wikipedia on it. And there's the HG, there's the mercury. This is a benzene ring. This is a carboxylate. This is a carboxylate. And it's a sodium salt. At this position, there's a sulfur bridge to the mercury and then an ethyl hanging off of that. Can you tell that I once took chemistry courses? Can you tell that I once was a laboratory technician synthesizing new organic compounds under the supervision of a senior research chemist, meaning PhD from a big deal University of Wisconsin? And that was over 60 years ago, and I can actually say that stuff to you still. Do you remember any high school chemistry? This compound was invented in 1927. That doesn't mean it was... Oh, is that what's in methylate? Oh, yeah. When I was a kid, the usual antiseptic was not iodine, but methylate, and yes, I've used a ton of that on me. Just made the connection. It's right there. Eli Whitney later marketed the compound under the trade name methylate. Okay, there you go. So we'll substitute methylate here, although methylate would be when it's in an alcohol and whatever solution. So the preservative in vaccines slated this presentation, a review paper, slated to be presented on Thursday, 2 days from now, to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Outside Vaccine Committee. Remember, there's just recently been some controversy about JFK Jr. firing the just passed vaccine committee and beginning substituting other scientists that people are going, oh no, oh no. Cites a study, this paper, this review, like the lawyers submit a brief, cites a study that does not exist. The scientist listed as the study's author said. So obviously the study's author that was cited, he must have gotten at least a courtesy copy of it, or he's a member of the review committee. He's reading the paper and he's going, what's this effing bullshit? The report called thimerosal as a vaccine preservative published on the CDC website on Tuesday, we're going to look in a minute and see if it's been withdrawn, is to be presented by Lynn Redwood, a former leader of the anti-vaccine group Children's Health Defense. No, all right, I've prepped you. We don't know who this guy is, and it doesn't matter. Get rid of that crap. So this review paper makes reference to a study called Low-Level Neonatal Thimerosal Exposure, Long-Term Consequences in the Brain. Now that's the title of the paper cited. See, you have your paper, blah, 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 and then you cite where certain things come from at the end. And they say that it was published in the Journal of Neurotoxicity in 2008 and co-authored, among other people, by USC Davis Professor Emeritus. He means he's retired, but he wasn't retired in 2008, Robert Berman. But according to Berman, it's not making reference to a study I published or carried out. Berman said he co-authored a similarly named study in a different journal, Toxicology Sciences, that came to different conclusions than those suggested by Redwood. Now, this is a big, long introduction. I'm independently assessing what's going on. And I'm going to teach you why they used to pay me the big money to use my brain. I'm going to highlight exactly the name of the study that is claimed to be non-existent. I'm going to put in here PubMed, in case you're unfamiliar with it. PubMed, MED, publication of medical stuff, PubMed. This is where your doctors go, all of them, when they have something they're unsure about how to treat. No, they don't look it up on the internet. They go to PubMed and they put in keywords or phrases to see what kind of materials have been published about the thing they're interested in learning more about in medicine. PubMed comprises more than 38 million citations of biomedical literature from Medline, life science journals, and online books. It's like going to Google, but for medicine. So let's go to the search. National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information. If you have an account, you can log in. PubMed, Advanced. We're going to put the title that supposedly is in the cited references of that article under criticism, and we're going to say search. And this is why I'm making the video, which you're seeing right here. I went to the highest authority search base, PubMed. Your search was processed without automatic term mapping because it retrieved 0 results. How could an article cited by a publication to be disclosed, defended publicly on Thursday, 2 days from now, how could it have a citation that PubMed doesn't know anything about? It's not possible. Now, let's go back to this Reuters article for a second. Now I'm in fresh ground I haven't done before. The report is called This, and it's published on the CDC website, so I'm going to do a Google search. There's the Reuters article. Google search doesn't know about it. It should be, it's citing this article, it recognizes the phrase. It picks up part of the phrase in this place on something that was in 2001. Centers for Disease Control, 2007, but it's just the name of the compound as a vaccine preservative. This is not what we're looking for. So what I'll do is, it's got quotes on it, and it says published on the CDC website. So why don't we go to the CDC website? Health topics, outbreaks, search. Now I'm going to search the CDC. Thimerosal and vaccine safety, updated December 2024. That's not what we're looking for. The next citation is 2014. Here's one of vaccine and immunoprophylaxis. That's an article by somebody else. June. The CDC has pulled the article. The article that they're going to present in 2 days is not cited as one of their publications, even though it's claimed in the news article that it was published there already, which it would be if it's going to be publicly presented. It means it's been pulled already. You got it? Now, I'm sitting here in the Piedmont of North Carolina. I'm using this stuff to verify and to check on what's going on. And even though I can't directly find, they're not going to say that they've pulled it, but they have. The CDC has done this to it because they checked out the complaint against it, and they realized that even if there's one fabrication in there, that person is shit as far as they're concerned. What do I mean by that person? The author of the study to be presented. Now watch. We're going back to PubMed. Now watch. low-level neonatal thermosil exposure, colon. So what I do is I start killing the rest of the title. Remember, with that full title, the National Library of Medicine PubMed says, I have no idea what you're talking about. None whatsoever, because I'm assuming that you gave me a full title, and no such full title exists in our database. So I'm shortening it to just low-level neonatal thimerosal exposure. Now watch. Now I'm going to open this. Remember, I'm teaching you what they paid the big money for. Hang on, let's see if we can get the full title. Here it is. Here's the full title. This is what I want. There's the full title. Okay? This is the fake citation. Fake citation that's been pulled. The present review's been pulled because of this. Let's go back to this. Now when I shorten it to everything up to the colon and drop the rest from the title, it comes back and the first author is Berman himself. Now let's look at the full title. You can see it. That's good enough. As a matter of conjecture, the a-hole who was writing that review to be presented supposedly on Thursday was using some AI engine that hallucinated, meaning it made up shit. Because it had clues from the prompts what the purpose of the author was, and so they began to bend reality to make the person using the chatbot happy by making up stuff that it wanted to see. So up to the colon is identical, but the actual article published, further evaluation of altered neurotoxic potential in SJL mice. This has to do with a certain kind of genetic mouse line. I'm not going to go into that. Do you see? So when I took this out of the PubMed search and left just the beginning, oh, I've seen that before. Do you follow how that works, how the search engines work? So the author who's complaining is, in fact, this guy, ethyl mercury in thimerosal preserved children's vaccines has been suggested to be neurotoxic, attacks their brains, and to contribute to the etiology of neurodevelopmental disorders such as autism. In other words, don't put this in vaccines giving it to kids. Don't put mercursome. It's good on your finger on a cut, but not to be injected where it can go to the brain. the mercury can go to the brain. Does mercury cause neurological degeneration? Yes, it does. And that's what the original article was about. But apparently the article being presented is trying to say the opposite. And I'm speculating that the AI bot knew what the person writing the article wanted to hear, so they made up something. That's a guess. And who's the author? Let's see where he is. He's emeritus. Let's get his picture. And what I'll do is I'll say, there he is, AI Overview, Professor Emeritus and Senior Research Professor, University of California, Davis, specializing in brain injury and neurodevelopmental disorders. His research focuses on understanding the mechanisms, chemistry, behind these conditions and developing new treatments. He's affiliated with the UC Davis Center for Neuroscience and the MIND Institute. And let's go and look at his page. Is it the same guy? It looks like the picture he's got here is from 20 years ago. It's the same guy. All right, this picture, it's the same guy, except it's not unusual for emeriti professors, that's a Latin word, to keep the pictures of when they were younger professors. So I just showed you what looked like two different people, but it's the same person over 20 years apart. But it's the same person. If he's not senile, who cares? Now we've got one more thing to search. We're interested in somebody named Lyn Redwood, a former leader of the anti-vaccine group Children's Health Defense. Let's see what that person's credentials are. Nurse practitioner. Let's see if this is the person we're talking about. CNN, former leader of anti-vaccine group founded by RFK Jr. to present at first meeting of new CDC vaccine advisors. But then they cite this. Viewpoint, CDC's upcoming vaccine advisory meeting set up to sow distrust in vaccines. The presenter, Lynn Redwood, this is Google search, is the president emerita. What does that mean? She used to be the president of Children's Health Defense. She retired from that, but she's still listed. Emeritus is male, emerita is female version of the Latin word. Previously known as the World Mercury Project. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The compound we're talking about is a mercury compound. Children's Health Defense aims to end childhood health epidemics by eliminating toxic exposure to vaccines. Vaccinate your families, a review of Lynn Redwood's article, Science as a Mean of 2014. Her picture probably is out of date too. Vaccines during pregnancy with Lynn Redwood. She's a nurse practitioner. What does that mean? This and autism, but this is somebody else. ResearchGate. ResearchGate is, okay, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This mercury compound as a vaccine preservative, but that's, she is a retired nurse practitioner. It says retired there. That's why it was emerita. This was cited from 4 hours ago. Prepared for the Advisory Committee of Immunization Practices, Lynn Redwood, RN, MSN, FP, retired. No financial conflicts or relationships to the food and drug. Okay, this is. I'm looking for the particular paper. There's supposed to be, so this is one of her favorite topics, because this is under her name, this mercury compound. So, hang on, let's find the original title. This is the paper. This is the so-called paper. Excuse me, let me find it again. There it is. This is the so-called paper. Let's see if I can do a search in it. It's being presented in my browser as a mercury is the third most toxic element on Earth behind polonium, you know what that is, and plutonium, you know what that is, and has no physiological role in the human body. Thimerosal was grandfathered for use without adequate, all right, so she's against it as a preservative in vaccines. And therefore she's critical of any vaccine that has it in it as a preservative. So her position is this is poison to the children's brain. Tremendous progress has been made in removing this compound, but more than 60,000 pregnant mothers received Medicaid and received that in the flu season. We could, all right. So now we can summarize what's going on. I can summarize what's going on. Her position is hang on. Her position is that any vaccine with this compound in it, for children at least, should be outlawed. Now, I'm guessing that's what she's saying. However, the criticism of her presentation is that when knowledgeable people began looking down through the citations, they discovered a hallucination, and therefore are questioning the validity of the presentation as a whole. I think that's probably a fair synopsis. Got it? I'm looking to see, but there doesn't seem to be any citation page if this is the actual article. It says it's prepared for the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices by Lynn Redwood, NR. The date is 2025. But I don't see anything beyond that down below. What's this? These are slides. So this is a slide presentation rather than the printed article itself. These are the slides. So let's go down to the last slide. Okay. I was just reading stuff on Reuters, and this article caught my eye. What this one's saying here is that the Chinese market is inflating their exports by exporting exclusive. China auto industry inflates sales by exporting new cars as used. I didn't read the article. And as I scroll down past all this crap, for some reason, is it gone now? I decided to investigate this one. Because this is the new sensation in the hot political infighting involving JFK Jr. I'm not taking sides. I just investigated what this is about as best I can using authoritative online resources. Steve A.B. for you, just letting his mind wander around while he's having fun. Saying, see you in 73.